Hi and welcome to another edition of In the Mood to Scrap. I'm Wilna. Today's mood board was inspired by song lyrics, a beautiful song by Mumford & Sons called After the Storm. And it's one of those songs where the lyrics are so beautiful and so inspiring and full of wisdom. And I decided to make it a little life lesson for my girls. Because no matter how hard life gets, there's always a silver lining and there's always hope. And I really hope that it means something to you, because it certainly means a lot to me at this stage of my life. So I decided on my mood board to go with the idea of flowers, because the lyric says, with grace in your heart and flowers in your hair. So I was looking at images of daisies and flowers and just green grass and all sorts of things that reminds me of summer. Also mint and just this beautiful pink. And this is the page that I made. And there's so much drama that surrounded this page that I'll tell you the whole story about it later on. But I think it translated well with the mood board, and in the end it's a very simple page, and believe it or not a product heavy page. So even though it looks like I used a lot of products on it, I actually didn't. It's a very, very simple page, and I'm very excited to share it with you. And I think I just said very one time too many. So with my varies at the end, let's get started. The products that I'm going to use is mainly chipboard, die cuts, and the only real embellishment I'm using are these little thingies by Studio Calico. Also some My Road chipboard, and I'm using the hearts and arrows, and also these beautiful stamps by Alison Kreft, which in the end I didn't use, but I really wanted to because I absolutely love them. Also this little stamp that looks like ink splatters, that was also the plan until it was very ironically derailed. But anyway, so I used the silhouette and I cut these daisies, and I think they look like real daisies, and I'll have the information about the cut file in the information part of the page on 2 Piece in a Bucket. And also these flourishes. I used paper by Cosmo Cricket, it's from my stash, but you can use any green. And what I love about these specific ones is that both sides are beautiful shade to use. The paper is from Cardabella, and I love their cardstock. It's really a thick, luxurious cardstock. And also some paper from Dear Lizzie, this green mint stripe, and the grey stripes by L Studio. Right, getting started. For a Garden Girl project, the beginning of June, I made a page, Kirsten's Story, and I actually just cut the page in half so that I had two halves to work with. And that idea just stuck with me, and that's what I want to do on this page. So basically, I used two different types of paper, and I divided it in half, and I'm going to lay the embellishments right in the middle of the page, or maybe not right in the middle, but almost in the middle. So I'm just arranging my chipboard and the flourishes in a way that before I'm sticking anything down, just to see how I like it. And I just found that the arrangement worked incredibly well. Also, it actually happened by accident. I was picking up product to decide to use for this project, and I just threw it out, and that's how it fell, almost exactly to a point. And then I decided that I loved it very much. And while you're just watching what I'm doing, I made another page, and I actually photographed it. I uploaded it to 2Ps, and I was busy editing the video, and then I decided that I just didn't like the page. And one of my criteria for my work this year, especially with 2Ps, is that I will only show work that I absolutely love. So in the end, I redid the page. I'm basically just remaking it, the same idea, just different papers. So I'm deciding here between going monogrammatic with the cream and a ledger type of paper. And then I pulled out this beautiful gray striped L Studio paper, and I loved it. It felt fresh and happy. And there's actually a mood board picture with this gray floor that I loved. So it fit in with my mood board. The pictures of my girls are from the last month, and I just edited it in Photoshop to make it one picture. And right there where I'm pointing, I'm going to add my title. Now this I'm going to do in Photoshop, and at the end of this video there's a little tutorial of exactly how I added text to a 12 by 12 inch page in Photoshop, as well as a 8.5 by 11. Because you use only a piece of paper, you can print it out on a normal printer, and I show you in Photoshop how to do that. So that's at the end of the video, and I will have the time that little tutorial starts in the information part so that you can refer back to it if you want to watch it again. So now I'm just adding my embellishments I'm just adhering them with hot glue, and my plan was to just adhere it to one part, the cream part of the layout. And I was so glad I did that, because you'll see what happens. Anyway, so this takes some time, and I wanted it to layer it so that the flourishes go over the hearts and under the hearts and the daisies as well. And also this little embellishment strip is something that I've done again and again and again in my work. And this specific one reminds me of a little flower crown that's also part of the mood board. So that's kind of a special, very delicate embellishment cluster. Also, the fact that I'm only using a couple of chipboards and die cuts means that it's a very economical way of making a page, because in the end I used maybe 4 pieces of pattern paper and some chipboard and those Studio Calico embellish that I put on the daisies, and I felt that they really they bring them to life. So I just love that. The next thing that I wanted to do was to add the stamp from Hero Arts that looked like paint splatters, because there were 2 things that I were determined not to do on this scrapbook page, and the one was ink splatters and the other one was gelatos, just to make things a little difficult for me. But anyway, so I just wanted to show you how wonderful this little ink splatter stamp works. So I took some sprinklers by October Afternoon and I just painted this stamp with it. You can use ink as well, but if you wanted to use a color, and you can see it works wonderful. It's a beautiful way to add ink to your page, especially if you're afraid of messing it up. Now, how ironic is this? So I was experimenting with that and deciding where do I want to put this ink splatter on my page, and then this happened. Yep, I spilled a whole bottle of ink on my freaking page, and I might or might not have said a bad word, but luckily I just picked it up, and then I saw the paint running and I'm like, wow, let's go with the flow, literally, and I just let it run that way, and I just put that part there, and then this one made a run for it, but in the end I didn't use that big splash. But just because I love this ink so much and this color, I'm saving the piece, and it might appear in one of my other scrapbook pages eventually. So I used a heating tool and I just dried it off, and I just loved actually this little accident. And that's really how serendipities happen when you work a lot. And if you make art, I mean, stuff happens. And isn't it ironic that this is what the lyrics of the song is about? You know, sometimes bad things happen, but there will come a time with grace in your heart and flowers in your hair and ink on your page, and you can make the best of a terrible situation. So I dried it off, and really now it's one of my favorite parts of the layout is the ink splatters. Right, taking some white acrylic paint, and this bottle is almost empty, so I had to dig deep to get some white paint out of it. I'm just going to paint some of the chipboard with it. I like to use acrylic paint on chipboard because it's way more opaque than, for instance, gesso. Gesso takes some time. You have to paint lots of layers to get the same opacity. And also I love the texture of the acrylic paint. So here you can see just how I'm going about painting the chipboard. Just adding the photo, my picture of my 3 girls. And then I decided to add some texture to those painted chipboard pieces. And how I'm going to do that is with a stamp. So I'm adhering the pieces of paper together with hot glue, and the honest reason is because I did not have a single piece of double-sided tape left in this house. So I have to get some soon, but it's really a crisis sometimes when you run out. I'm using Ollie Edwards stamps, and I think they are currently sold out at 2-piece, but there are numerous other stamps that you can use, anything that has words or letters on it. So again, I'm taking my little piece of paper and I'm just going to practice and see how I want to stamp it. And in the end, I used a big brush pen because it's India ink. It really works well on painted surfaces. So that's the reason why I went with the big brush. So you can see it stamps beautifully, and that's exactly what I want to stamp on my hearts and on the love and the you. In the end, I didn't use an acrylic block to stamp just because of the embellishments and the block is too big. So I just took the stamp right off the acrylic block and just used my hand to add some stamping texture to the chipboard. And then it was too harsh and I just wanted to push it back a little, and that's why I love paint. It's almost like the opacity layer in Photoshop. You can just slide it back up or down. So now you can see it's way more subtle with just that little bit of white paint over it. And I'm going to do exactly the same with the other chipboard. Again, just using the acrylic stamp by itself and just quickly or gently just add some letters to that. And I'm not afraid to stamp too hard because I have paint to push it back if I'm not super happy with it. So that's the other thing why it's interesting to try new techniques, is because if it doesn't work, you just paint over it. Just like that. So now my page is almost done. I think it's 99% done. And I'm just going to adhere it to the background paper, and then I just want to add the date stamp and a little sentiment stamp to it. So because I don't have any double-sided tape in my house, I'm using my hot glue gun just to add a little bit of hot glue to the back to stick it down, and I will add some double-sided tape once I get some at some stage. And because I never, except sometimes, adhere my photographs with hot glue, I decided to use some photo corners to stick down the picture on this page, so I don't have to use hot glue on it. And I love photo corners, and I am so happy that they're still around. And here you can see the details of the finished page. And you can see how the big disaster turned into a great serendipity, and I think it looks beautiful. I love the simplicity of it, and I think it's a good representation of the mood board. Next, I just want to give a shout out to my youngest viewer. Her name is Anna, and Anna said that I inspired her to make a gelato video tutorial. And Anna, this is the page that I made for this tutorial that you posted on YouTube, and she did a great job of explaining gelatos. So Anna, I hope you keep on making videos, and I hope you keep on being creative, and it's really a pleasure to watch you. Right, thank you for watching In the Mood to Scrap. This is the end of the process video, and what is to follow is a quick tutorial on how to do the title in Photoshop. So the first thing you want to do is open a new document. So you go to File, New, and then you can select the size you want. So I selected US paper, which is 8.5 by 11, and click OK. The next thing you want to do is click on your tool icon, which is the T, and then click and drag like I did there to make a little box. Now what you're basically doing is you're saying to Photoshop that your text should fit in that box. Now I moved it to the corner, and the only reason why I moved it is to make sure that I size it correctly. You can see how I'm dragging it to the 5-inch mark, because I wanted the box to be 5 inches by round about 5 inches. Right, when you take your cursor out of the box and put it below it, you can actually move it around. And once you put your mouse inside of the box, it becomes the type tool again. So now you can just click there and paste your text. And I just got my lyrics off the internet, and I copied it, and I'm just pasting it here. So now I want to show you how to resize your text. And by the way, this font that I'm using is typical typewriter. To change the size of the font, you select the font, and then you just select the type size, and then I use my scroll on my mouse, and you can scroll up and it goes smaller, and you can scroll down and it becomes bigger, or the other way around. The other way you can do it is by selecting your little paragraph tool in your toolbar, and you can see how I adjust the spacing between the lines there. You can also adjust the size of the font, and any type of thing you want to do, you can adjust there. Right, so I want to change the With Grace in Your Heart and Flowers in Your Hair to a different font. So I'm going to select it, and then I'm going to, in the typewriter or the font block, I'm going to type in Jock and Gills, because that's the name of the font, and I'm going to change the size of the font as well. So according to me, the words are a little bit small, so I just made them a little bit bigger, and now I'm going to adjust the opacity of the words by using my color tool. And you see that black box right at the top. When you click it, it will open a color palette, and whatever text you have selected, it will change to that color. So I don't like to print with black ink on my pages, just because by now you should know that I love muted colors or a little bit subdued, and that's exactly what I did with this page as well. Another little thing about font that I found is that 2 fonts is the maximum. So whenever you do a little invitation or something to do with design, use 2 fonts and that's it. So you can have like a very upright font like Arial or Helvetica, and then a handwritten font like this one, Jock and Gills, or something flourishing, you know, like One Fell Swoop or something like that. So I hope this helped you in regards to how to do it on Photoshop. So you want to place it, you can see where I placed my text box, because that's the edge that's going to match the other edge. And now I'm going to print it. Now you go to print settings, you select your printer, and then you want to select the type of paper you have, a matte paper, and the size, and you click save and print. Just a little note, not to select the glossy print when you print on normal paper, because you're going to waste a lot of your gloss, but that's just if you have a white format printer. I really hope that this helped you. If you have any questions, just leave me a comment. And thank you for watching In the Mood to Scrap. I'm Wilna Furstenberg, and I'll be back.